Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back to
the Sex Talk.
The Sex Talk.
My name's Mo.
And I'm Dr. Amie.
And today we are going to talk about
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
I forgive you.
I forgive you.
Okay.
You've never done anything to me though. So I forgive you for my own peace.
I think it's interesting because we're talking about sex, and I think that forgiveness is a concept that is in every part of our lives. Family members, platonic friendships, romantic relationships, but especially I think this is something we can apply to sexual relationships and experiences, because I'm sure most people have experienced something at some point where in an intimate situation somebody has experienced or done something that caused anger or caused a feeling that has come up that is really hard for you to shake.
Yeah, resentment, hurt, pain, whatever, you know, like we've all been in relationships where we've been hurt, whether it be a friendship, whether it be a parent, whether it be a partner, an employee, employer, even, like those, it happens, and it's happening all the time. And then we hold on to this resentment, we hold these grudges, and that grudge, and I've done it too, I've held on to grudges for years, in fact, but it festers inside of us. It's like an anger.
Anger can really eat you up and destroy you.
Yeah.
So it's important to identify when you feel anger and resentment to somebody you are currently in a relationship with, platonic, romantic, or maybe it's something in the past. And how do you know that the anger or the resentment is becoming an issue for you?
Right. I think one way that I know is because it tears down your self-esteem. It makes you feel insecure. You sort of have this like bitter, like chip on your shoulder kind of thing around certain type of people or certain incidents or events or things like that trigger that anger. And so, when you get to the core of it, you realize, oh, I'm still angry about this thing that this person did to me. Like we become the victim, right?
We victimize ourselves and sit in that victim identity and hold that anger. Maybe we are spinning in our minds, really thinking about this a lot, ruminating over it. But the thing that's important to emphasize is that forgiveness isn't necessarily about the other person at all. It's about you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when we think about forgiveness, or we see things out there in clickbait type articles or on TV, we see things about telling somebody that they're forgiven or having a conversation, which is one of many things you can do, but ultimately forgiveness is about your own experience at coming to a certain level of whether it's peace or less anger, no anger, just getting to a different place where it's not eating you up inside.
Right. And I think that we've learned that forgiveness means, oh, I forgive you. There was this old saying that we grew up with, I forgive but I don't forget, or I forgive and have forgotten, But the truth is the forgiveness is about you. You don't have to forget. Like I think.
No, I mean, this isn't eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. You can't just forget.
Right.
Your memory doesn't go away.
Right.
You remember, but
Yeah.
also your memory is attached to a different emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like forgiving becomes more about letting that person go, and in the sense that like you let what happened go, let bygones be bygones, so to speak. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to keep that person in your life.
No, forgiveness does not mean the person has to be in your life. It's your own experience of whether it's, I don't even know if I'd use the words letting go, but making peace, or being an acceptance at who that person is and what occurred, and that is separate from who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's an acceptance. So I actually think that if somebody, committed some type of event against you that was very violating, that maybe it's best not to have the person in your life. That's your choice. It's all your choice.
Yeah.
And you can choose to not have somebody in your life and still also be at peace with an event that occurred, or the person for who they are.
Right.
So, and it's hard to get to, and I think that in our culture we tell people to heal quicker. We say that healing takes time, but people don't give you the message that it's okay that it takes time. But I'm here to tell you, it's okay.
Right.
It can take a long time to get to that place. Sometimes days, weeks, years, decades.
Right. Well, and the next piece is like self-forgiveness, which was huge for me when I was getting to the place where I was like, oh, I need to forgive, this person or these people for the things that they've done, because number one, we do things to each other. It was a two-way street. Number two, okay, maybe I was the victim in some cases, but holding on to that anger and holding on to what it did to me, I had to forgive myself for. And that was almost even more healing. Like once I forgave myself, I was really able to forgive that person and make peace with that whole situation. Now, it doesn't mean I'm friends with that person or these people. It doesn't mean they're in my life by any means. Sometimes it can be a family member, and maybe that person needs to stay in your life.
That's a tough one, because we don't choose our family members, and we have to decide where in our life their place will be, and that can be a little bit more complicated than a platonic friendship.
Right. So forgiveness is almost even most important, I feel like, in family situations, because if you do need to continue to have relationships with certain people in your family, and they've done something that feels unforgivable, maybe to you, like you can't forgive them as a person, or meaning you can't keep them like close to you, close to your heart, close to your close to the cuff, I guess. But forgiveness of like the situation and of yourself for being in that situation, and of the dynamic that you created together, I feel like feels a little bit better than like saying, oh, I forgive you for something that you've done. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Forgiving the dynamic. Well said. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So it's your own experience. You don't necessarily have to communicate it. It's more complicated with family. In romantic situations, remember that the choice goes back to you're choosing the relationship, but you don't choose your parent. You can choose where they are in your life, but when it's your spouse or your partner or a friend, it's your choice to engage with that person. So part of that is taking responsibility for your own input into that, even if it's just your presence that you allow that person close to your life. Taking responsibility for giving yourself and working towards reducing anger. What do you think some good ways are at working towards anger and resentment reduction, whether the person's in your life or not? What do you think?
I think that like something that they do in like guided hypnosis or guided like meditation is you sort of have this dialogue with yourself or with a therapist about, and maybe that person's in the room, like not really in the room, but with your therapist, and you sort of work through that situation and you see it from a different perspective. It's like putting yourself in their shoes. Like that's one
empathy. Yeah. Trying to gain empathy for the person or the behaviors that maybe you don't agree with that were hurtful to you, but understanding the function and that it had for that person. Yeah, I find that to be pretty effective. Kind of trying to see it from different perspectives can be pretty enlightening. And gaining empathy, I think that's a really good.
And it might not change how you feel. That anger might still be there. And so I think, just kind of going easy on yourself.
Like don't tell yourself that you want to have no reactivity or anger about a situation, especially if it's a trauma or violation, because it always, especially if it's a type of trauma, like it should always make you not happy. However, it's how much is it coming up in your mind? How intense are those emotions? What is that causing you to do in response to that? I think gaining empathy or understanding of the situation, like Mo said. Another thing is like self-regulation you can do within yourself, like concerning your own body. When we feel anger, resentment, sometimes our heart rate goes up, our breathing changes, our muscles are tense. And we might not even realize it. So working on kind of a body connectedness, mindfulness.
Paying attention to what's happening to your body.
Doing a body scan when those feelings come up. When you see that person's name that did harm to you, or you have this feeling about, you clench up and make a face, or you realize that you become irritable for the rest of the day. That's a good sign that that's really affecting you in a way that it might not be serving you so much. So
you might have a dream about that person, and then all day you're like tense, so just start paying attention to your body, and working scenes out in your head can be helpful too. Role play can be fun too with your therapist. Like if you have something to say to that person that you're really never going to say to them, you might want to do a role play with your therapist.
Role play where the therapist is that person, or role play where you are the person you're upset with too. So that can be really helpful.
Or writing a letter that you're never going to send. Like
and then you rip it up.
You hold, because we hold all these emotions in our body. And sometimes when we just write it out, we like literally get it out of our body. And so that's a nice way to purge it too.
Yeah, and gives you more insight when you read what you've written too. Or journaling, or just talking it out with a therapist or a trusted friend.
Yeah.
Can be really helpful.
Yeah. Sometimes movies are great too, like cinema therapy. I like that, you know, like movies that like kind of stir this emotion and you're like, what is that emotion? Oh, that same thing happened to me.
Right. It's anything you can kind of project on that can bring those things up. I think film is a great thing to do that with. And even I brought it up with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Where we have a relationship we might feel resentment or hurt about, and we wish to be able to erase it because it brings up these really difficult emotions that are hard to process. So highly recommend that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Film or books or articles.
Film, books, I guess that's it.
That's it
for forgiveness. So just try to forgive yourself. Forgive the other person. That doesn't mean they have to be in your life. And
understand it takes time. So when people say just let it go, realize that that's a way that's kind of like shaming you for your timeline. We don't realize we say it. It's very common in our culture, but realizing it takes a long time, and sometimes it takes a long time to even pinpoint the fact that you feel anger or you feel resentment to the point where you want to work on forgiveness.
Sometimes they're really old stuff that we've been carrying with us for a really long time, so take that into consideration.
And forgiveness is your own experience and may or may not ever come to that other person's awareness, and that's okay.
I think that was it. I think that was the sex talk.
That's sex talk. Ding ding. Bye.
Bye.
Sex Talk.